Welcome to Dave Talks Ball in this September 30th, 2024 episode, folks. You can see I got the sleeves out. We're about to be in October, folks. It just kind of turned the page to me in college football. It's about midway point of college football. Have a lot of games we're going to figure out about teams in October, but really, remember the month of November. That's where we used to separate ourselves. That's where you separate yourselves, the month of November. We're about to be at that midway point. October is when it starts to really feel like football season to me. The weather's different. It just kind of smells. I mean, it smells different. My point, I went out there right before the show to get my wife's computer for her out of her car and just kind of smell, I don't know, smoky. That little smoky feel, like a smoked wood type feel out there. Feels like fall. So it's good. Midst of football season here. Weather's starting to settle in. But through 5 weeks, this season has delivered the biggest surprises week to week of any season I can remember. I mean, we had Kentucky shock Ole Miss at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium this week. Probably the biggest shock of the SEC season so far. I'll be honest with you. This season is as hard to figure out as any as I can remember. I do not remember a specific season being this hard to figure out. I didn't see anybody pick Kentucky to win that game. Granted, I mean, they were an 18-point underdog, so it makes sense. But we're seeing those kind of upsets now. There's no more just rolling the balls out anymore. I mean, Texas played with their food a little bit with Mississippi State. We'll talk about that game in a minute. But, I mean, I've stated it a million times. I don't know if it has anything to really do – I think it does with the portal, lack of continuity on the coaching side. So it's just hard to predict. And you talk to these teams every week like I do. Again, I worked in college football for 9 years in the SEC and some other conferences. Really cut my teeth in the SEC. But – you hear feedback from them. They don't really know what's going on. They're like, I mean, I think we're going to go play well, but I don't really know. But you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of where you're at in college. I think we're going to go play well. I mean, I see some mismatches we have over them. I see some mismatches they have over us. But when you turn the football over or commit double-digit penalties, that changes the outcome of a game. But on today's show, we're going to get right into it, guys. We're going to get right into the meat and potatoes. There's some Week 5 takeaways. Go over the 5 SEC matchups, and we'll talk a little LSU South, Alabama around the rest of the league. Who is the best secondary in the league right now, folks? I say it all the time. Yes, I think college football in general, a little down in the secondary. Again, the game's as spread out, spatial as it's ever been, so it's tougher to play defensive back, be a DB right now. I mean, you saw in the Alabama-Georgia game, a lot of bombs over Baghdad. I mean, you saw Georgia really in the second half, Carson Beck, Dylan Bell, Arian Smith, Colby Young, guys like that, trying to test that young Alabama secondary. And more people are playing nickel dime packages now, guys. So you don't see it as much. You don't see these type of games like this anymore. You don't see lockdown defensive backs anymore. And again, people aren't playing in a phone booth anymore. It's spatial, so more room for error. But who has the best secondary in the SEC right now? I think it's a fair conversation to have where Dave was wrong, where Dave was right. Money-making weekend review, again, wasn't good, folks. 3-6. 3-6. But we outside of Ole Miss getting upset by Kentucky, we were about to go undefeated in our straight-up pick'ems in the SEC for another week. So I've been back-to-back weeks. Thank you, Ole Miss. And we'll go, like I mentioned, money-making weekend review. Then we will look ahead briefly to all the action in Week 6. But first, guys, before we go, this episode is brought to you by our buddies over at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com and use code SECU at sign-up to get $50 off where you play your first lineup $5 or more. Guys, I see the Bill Belichick commercials all the time out there when I'm working in my living room about Prize Picks. Good commercials, but guys, they have some fun. They have some fun little individual bets. Again, like last year, I actually haven't played. I'll be honest with you, I'm not gonna lie to you on this show. I haven't played Prize Picks yet, but I did last year. My favorite one was Jaden Daniels. I think Malik Neighbors won against Florida State weekend. But no, Prize Picks, guys. If you're wanting to go do some individual betting on specific, like, hey, is Garrett Nussbauer going to throw for 300 yards? Go visit our buddies. Go to prizepicks.com and use code SECU at sign up to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 or up lineup. Jake Crane from Crane & Company hopping in. College football is drunk. It really is. This is the hardest season, like I mentioned, in leading up to where we're getting the meat and potatoes of this. It's just hard to predict, man. No, again, like I said, these teams have no clue week to week what they're expecting within their own program or what they're expecting from another team. Again, these injury reports have people kind of a little confused too. So it's as hard to predict as ever. Hell, my betting picks we'll get to here in a bit, tell you that. But, straight up picks were all right. We would have went undefeated 2 weeks in a row if it wasn't for Ole Miss and Kentucky. But let's get to it. A little week 5 reaction. Let's bring up our banners, folks. Bama hangs on in Tuscaloosa. I'll be honest with you, that was one of the probably the best offensive quarter of football I've seen from the University of Alabama in my lifetime. Again, grew up a big Alabama fan, went to Alabama. Again, Jake Crane himself. We're all fans of somebody, so I'm not going to hide where I went to school, my alma mater. But I feel like I'm pretty objective. Working in college football changed that. But in my lifetime, and that was as good as a script as you could go. I mean, Georgia looked like they'd never defended motion in their life. Jalen Milroe was spot on. Alabama was changing so many formations in the middle. They go 3-by-1, 2-by-2, and in Georgia, they would want Georgia to declare were they in zone or were they in man-to-man. You saw the wheel route touchdown to Jam Miller on C.J. Allen. They put him in motion. They saw C.J. Allen running out to cover him. He got his landmark and more leverage on him. He outflanked him. Jalen Miller put a perfect dime on him. It was the best first quarter of offensive football I'd seen in my lifetime. Again, 1989 on. Alabama fans, if you're listening to this, tell me if I'm wrong. I just don't think so. Jalen Milroe, Heisman, leader in the Heisman in the house right now. I mean, it's got to be, right? I mean, you would think, right? I mean, you'd have to say it's Jalen Milroe. Somebody in the comments tell me if I'm wrong here. Maybe Ashton Gentry, the running back from Boise State, would maybe be the other one. That could be in that conversation as well. I think Carson Beck could get back in it. Jackson Dart potentially. But I think Jalen Milroe, when you factor in his legs, that's another thing Nick Sheridan and Kalen DeBoer factor in. When you scheme up Jalen Milroe in the run game, it's a totally different dynamic. He is more of a Lamar Jackson type player right now in college football. Again, Georgia had a couple plays where, all right, they schemed him up well, but you know what? He's just the fastest guy on the field, best overall athlete on the field. The offense was rocking and rolling in the first half for Alabama. Second half, just felt like they were a little uncomfortable in the second half on both sides of the football. I thought in the first half, the swarm D for Kane Womack was flying around. I felt like the 37 lead at half, they didn't really know how to go operate it a little bit. It was almost like you're leaving 17, 20 seconds on the play clock. I think they were like, do we run it down? Do we be aggressive? You saw them obviously be aggressive when they lost the lead. They scored, obviously, the big play to Ryan Williams. But again, nobody's talking about how phenomenal of a ball that was by Jalen Milroe. I mean, think about the progression of Jalen Milroe from last September, what we were talking about him. I mean, he was fighting for the job right now. I think they were probably going into that A&M week a year ago, which kind of was a springboard game for Alabama. But the swarm D specifically, flying around for Bama, both sides of the football looked pretty uncomfortable. They looked pretty uncomfortable in the second half. And Georgia, and to be fair, Georgia wasn't playing a normal game. They were using all 4 downs on offense. They were bombs over Baghdad, had to keep coming back. Bama, I don't blame Kane Womack to not being aggressive in the second half. I think if you really asked him, he wished that he'd have been a little bit more aggressive. But I think he was like, man, if they just take 6-7 minutes off the clock, 12-play drives, we'll have that. They can't come back. Well, when Georgia converts 6 for 6 on 4th down in the game, you got to get a stop on 4th down at some point. That's where it ultimately comes back. Georgia made a run, a phenomenal run, and Georgia adjusts better than anyone in the country, that staff between Glenn Schumann and Kirby Smart specifically. Now, Georgia, they looked completely shook in that first half. Completely shook. Nothing went their way. Again, like I said, best second half adjustment team in the country. They will never be happy about a loss, but I think they can hang their hat on, like, maybe we'll get another opportunity against Alabama. And I see a lot of people have different opinions on, hey, man, you got to feel better if you were Georgia after that. No, you don't. Alabama won the football game. Georgia's not getting on that bus on Saturday night. They're not getting on that plane to go back to Athens. Like, you know what? I feel like we got the best of Alabama there. They played again. I think it'd be different both ways. Does Alabama play as good as a quarter as they played in the first quarter? Probably not. Does Georgia convert 6 for 6 in the 4th down conversions in a rematch, either in Atlanta in early December or maybe Atlanta in late January for a national championship? Probably not. You got to remember, Alabama's defense was in a weird spot. I mean, they knew you're having to defend for 4 downs in the second half, something they'll probably never have to do again for a whole half. I mean, let's be honest. So this game will be completely different. Georgia will adjust. Alabama will adjust. There'll be different wrinkles. I think it's a combination of Georgia adjusted They weren't crashing down on the edges. They were going to stop giving that up. And we knew that. I mean, if you're going to go dribble with your right hand, have success in the first half, Georgia's going to go make you dribble with your left hand. Basketball reference there. But I'm not as sold as, oh, man, Georgia. I like Joe Platt. I think he does a really good job. But he's like, Alabama was lucky. There wasn't another quarter. Well, Joe, it's a good thing we only played 4 quarters. Like, that's not really fair to say. I mean, what if Alabama had a third quarter in the first half? I mean, it could have been worse than 30-7. I mean, we can play that game all day. But no, I think it'll be a completely separate game. Both teams will be more prepared, come in with different adjustments if they do play again. Again, I don't think they're going to play in December in Atlanta. I just think Georgia's schedule's too hard. I think Bama's going to drop one. Again, I'm a big schedule guy, so I could see these two playing in the playoffs, but I don't see them playing again. I don't see them playing in the SEC championship game this year. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I do think this is probably going to go down as the best college football game of the year outside of playoff games. We're talking regular season, just from Bama up 37.5. Georgia roars back, takes the lead, has the biggest comeback in school history. Bama, Jalen Milroe come down, answer immediately. I think Georgia was up 12 seconds for the Ryan Williams grab. One of the best balanced body control plays I've ever seen. I don't know how he stayed in bounds there. Phenomenal play across the board. Phenomenal football game. Ebbs and flows. You saw a lot of good offensive football. You saw a lot of adjustments. Overall, fun game. Fun game. Wow, though, for Georgia. I mean, you could say Carson Beck lost them that game, but also got them back in it at the same time. Yeah, I'm a little confused on Carson Beck. What big game has Carson Beck won? What big game has Carson Beck won? Again, that's not a shot at Carson Beck. I'm just saying, what big game has Carson Beck won? I don't know. Like, I feel like when you bring pressure through the A-gap, I mean, you said it's about a lot of quarterbacks. He's going to struggle. You saw him in the first half. Took the safety late in the first half. But when you only rush 3 or 4 in the second half, you give him time. He's as good as anyone because he's got arm talent. He's got hand talent. I think Georgia's weapons are a little underrated on the outside. Again, you can tell they still miss initially getting started, and that's something that we need to discuss. Mike Bobo and that Georgia offense have to start better. In the first half, at halftime against Clemson, they had 6 points. Against Kentucky, they had 3. Against Alabama, they had 7. Against their 3 best opponents in 2024 so far, Georgia has struggled to open up. Kirby has to get that offense figured out. It's got to get with Mike Bobo make. How can we get a quicker start? How can we start faster? Again, really never got going against Kentucky, but against Clemson and Alabama in the second half, you kind of got rocking and rolling. Have to have faster starts in that game. But, man, what a game in Tuscaloosa. Wasn't there, but I heard one of the louder environments they'd been to. If you're an Alabama person going back, you're dating yourself. The one people kind of put themselves on is the standard is that Florida 2005 game. Urban Meyer's first year, Mike Shula was still there. That was a game where the Alabama fan base was still a little hungry. You had the Brody Kroll or Tyrone Pro throw early in the game. Place was erupting. That's kind of it. I heard it was even louder. So tip of the cap to the fans there. What a game. Hopefully we get to see these two teams play again. I don't really feel much different about them. It's really a tale of two halves. Again, but I don't really feel like it's like, man, Bama, Georgia just ran out of time. No, they just got themselves in a hole and ran out of time. I mean, it wasn't like somebody shortened them on the clock. But on to the gray. What was the moment shift that almost gave the Georgia the comeback? I think it was when Bama didn't take advantage of the Carson Beck turnover. When they stripped him in the second half, and Bama came out there 3 and out, almost had another bad snap. Looked like last year with snaps to Seth McLaughlin and Jalen Milroe, and just kicked back to Georgia. Like, dude, if they just go get a field goal, they probably put that out of play. I mean, if Georgia doesn't convert every fourth down, doesn't get everything, again, give them credit, doesn't convert everything they need to in that second half, the game may have been a runaway. But it wasn't phenomenal football game across the board. But here's the biggest shocker. Kentucky getting the 2017 win at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium over Ole Miss. Kentucky, how about that defense, man? How about that defense? Jackson Dart pressured on 16 of his 38 dropbacks for 42% of the time. 42% of the time he was pressured. Hurried 10 times, sacked 5 times. Kentucky's front 8. They ate. Defense was lights out. And that was without one of their best corners. And Maxwell Hairston, I think, has an infection. He was in the hospital. But guys like J.Q. Hardaway, DJ Waller, Terry and Nichols, who got hurt, they all stepped up. And our prayers to Maxwell Hairston. Hopefully he bounces back here. But they did this undermanned a little bit too, Brad White, in this defense. Give them credit. They really challenged an Ole Miss offensive line. I thought they were ready for this. We'll get to Ole Miss in a minute. I think offensively, wasn't a phenomenal game by Brock Vandagriff and Gavin Wimsatt. But it feels like Bush handed that offense followed the exact blueprint to win this game. Hey, stay ahead of the sticks on first and second down, get manageable third downs. We can stay in this game. dominate time of possession. That's what they did. That's what they had to do. Literally, the Kentucky blueprint was the only way that was a path to victory. And they followed it to a T. Followed it to a T, folks. How about Mark Stoops, too? Also making up, being bold. 4th and 8 against Georgia, down 17-13 with 4 minutes to go. Sorry, he was down against Georgia. People gave him hell, 2 weeks ago for punting that? And again, he defended himself. He's like, look, we were, and again, I would have went for it because you were 24-point underdog. You had nothing to lose. Why not go for it? But I get it. You've been playing well, pin them back. It just didn't happen. This one, he went for it. 4th and 8, down 17-13, 4:02 left, 60-yard gain. Hit him. Again, good call. I mean, I saw him. He actually explained it well because he was like, all right, look, we're down 4. We needed a touchdown no matter what. Even if we don't get it, we're giving them in the red zone, shorter, condensed field. Maybe we hold them to a field goal. We still have to go get a touchdown, which makes sense. Remember, they're down 4, folks. They still needed to go score. A field goal does nothing. Even if they don't get that 4th and 8, they give Ole Miss in the red zone. They get Ole Miss in the red zone, which is fine for them. Hold them to a field goal, which Kentucky easily could have done. Still a 7-point game. It'd been 20-13. Kentucky would have had to go get a score no matter what to tie it. So I get that. That's a pretty chestnut checkers move. And that's where the analytics come in. They give you those numbers. It's like, all right, that makes sense there. And also, the great coaches have a real gut feel. Give Mark Stoops credit for doing that. But they followed the blueprint to a T on how to win this. Be there in the 4th quarter. Have a chance to win it at the end. If it comes down to one play at the end and a 50-50 ball, your guys to make a play or their guys to make a play, it's anyone's game. Kentucky gave themselves a shot all day Saturday to get to the 4th and have a win. Especially, they got hit in the mouth immediately. Ole Miss went down first possession of the game and scored with ease. And speaking of the Rebs, I didn't think the energy was there after that first series. It was like they just thought Kentucky would lay down like Middle Tennessee State, Furman, Georgia Southern, and Wake did against them. And I thought it was the worst called game in Lane Kiffin's career. If you want to be honest, since I've been keeping up with Lane. It wasn't. If I saw another Jackson Dart inside draw, I'm going to lose my mind. Offensive line still not there. Granted, some injuries are there. Caleb Bourne is not playing due to a knee-related injury. Jeremy James, I'm looking at their injury report right now. Jeremy James has a hand fracture. Jaden Williams, according to the Inside Rebels, has a potential season-ending injury. We talked about that on Sunday Fun Day yesterday. Julius Bulow, the Washington transfer, upper body issue, flared up recently. Jaquan Scott, the Southern Miss transfer, projected by some to be the team starting center. He's just getting back into action from a knee injury. Been playing guard. Ole Miss is banged up in the offensive line. It doesn't get easier this week. They have to go play at Williams-Brice Stadium against a really good defensive front in second. It's different, though. More finesse, speed. Kentucky's a little bit more physical. I thought Pete Golden, the defense for Ole Miss, wasn't that bad, really. They had a chance to win because of the defense, but same time, Kentucky dominated time of possession. So for Ole Miss, it's not over. I previewed that in my tweet. Is it over for Ole Miss? Is Ole Miss in trouble? No. It's one game. Schedule's still real manageable. But it starts this week. Ole Miss fans, let's say this. 2 things can be true at once. Your season's not over, but this week is a must-win. And you did not think in early October you were already going to play for a must-win situation because 10-2 does not guarantee Ole Miss in the playoffs if certain things shake out. Because I don't know how many quality wins you're going to have. Now, if they beat Georgia, that's one down the line. But again, if you start 0-2 in league play, let's be honest, Ole Miss probably isn't going to make the playoffs. And that is really disappointing when you factor in how much money they invested into this team. And when you factor in the schedule, the stars align for the 12-team playoffs this year. If they don't take advantage this year, win. I don't blame the Ole Miss fans for being faithful. But is it time to panic? No. But this week is must win. And you have a matchup. And your opposition, you're going into their house off a bye week. They have a massive matchup advantage against you right now. And I don't think Ole Miss, they brought in some bodies, some good players. It's not bad. A lot of people would love to have Ole Miss's depth. It's still not there, I don't think, to go compete with the Alabama and Georgias. Lane said he thought it was, and they may look good off the bus. It's not showing it. Kentucky went and hit them in the mouth. And that was the first time Ole Miss was hit in the mouth, and they did not respond well. It's like Mike Tyson. Everybody's got a plan until you get hit. Ole Miss did not respond well, and that's what concerns me. With that being said, though, I do think it's early. It's only Monday. But I do like Ole Miss to bounce back this week. We'll talk about that as we look ahead to the Week 6 action. But again, Kentucky with the shocker of the season so far. Kentucky gets the 2017 win over Ole Miss. UT Bags, he's in, baby. He's already talking a little Tennessee football. Go Big Orange, going to take it to the Piglets. Max Harrison did not play. Yeah, you're right. I mentioned that, which makes it even more impressive. Kentucky is the best 3-2 team in the country by far, Hans. Yeah, I mean, probably true. I think that South Carolina game was a little bit of an anomaly. And I was leaving Kentucky on the streets. And I still don't think the offense is great, folks. But I think they've kind of figured out what kind of glove fits for them a little bit. You know what I mean? For lack of a better term. Like, I feel like they're going to have a 2-quarterback system with Brock Vandagriff and Gavin Wimsatt. And they're going to just kind of plug and play as it goes and kind of, hey, maybe if we get Chip Trayanum back, the Ohio State running back transfer from injury, that can help. And they're going to keep evolving this offense. I like where they're at right now. 8 wins, not ready to get there, but they have 3 very manageable games coming up: Vandy, Florida, and Auburn. So, I mean, Kentucky can get a little bit on run, but that's where you get concerned with Kentucky in those type of games. Like Deion Walker, beast. I think when he's playing hard, the best interior defensive tackle in the league, but his motor isn't always consistent. Will it be there for teams against Vandy, a bad Florida team, and against a bad Auburn team? It's always going to be there against Georgia and Ole Miss, against the good teams, but can he bring that week to week? That's what I'd say there, Hans. Mike, that is a very good point on the 4th and 7 there, Dave. Yeah, and that was me. And to be honest, that wasn't me. That was Mike Stoops, and I was just listening to him. I was like, that makes sense. Like, you need a touchdown. You're down 4, 4th and 8. Why not? Why not? You're a big underdog again, Mike. Give Mike Stoops credit. He learned his lesson the last time. But again, he defended his decision against Ole Miss still, against Georgia, which, okay, to each his own. I wouldn't have done that 24-point dog. I'm going for it against the number 1 team in the country. This week, he said, you know what? We need a touchdown anyways. I think we can stop them in the red zone. If they kick a field goal, who cares? We still need a touchdown. So I thought Mark Stoops was very right there. Then Mike, again, if the quarterback has to run 30-plus a game, then you need 2 in this conference. Yeah, no kidding. That's South Carolina with the North Sellers being out. But let's go to the next one. Sooners. Boy, did they. They still won on the Plains, folks. Stole one. Oklahoma with a 27-21 victory. Let's give the roses to Oklahoma. They're the winners. Season-saving win right there, folks. Season-saving win. You get to go into a bye week before Red River against Texas and Dallas. But how did they win that football game, dude? How did they win that game? It really makes no sense. I mean, also that pick 6 by Kip Lewis killed the under. I took the under that game. But can the Sooners get Michael Hawkins started before the 4th quarter? I know he had the big run to open up the game and it's their first series, but he just kind of goes in these lulls a little bit. They got to get him going consistently like that, get him in the run game going. Again, I've made it known on this show, not a massive Seth Luttrell fan not from a personal standpoint. I don't know him personally, but from an X's and O's standpoint, I think they do too much RPO stuff and make the quarterbacks make tough decisions. You got to really have a feel for that. They need to make the decision for them. They need to get him going early. Thought Mason Thomas on defense. Jaden Jackson was the best guy on the interior. Kip Lewis mentioned him, the big pick 6. Billy Bowman was flying around like a stud. 2 was balling the other day, folks. 2 was playing his ass off. Robert Spears Jennings was another guy playing well in the back end. I talk about who is the best secondary. When Oklahoma's healthy, Oklahoma's in that conversation. Right now, maybe not. But overall, when they're healthy, you'd have to have that conversation with him. Oklahoma had to have this because their schedule. I mean, I'm pulling up their schedule right now. It's a tough schedule, man. Like they had to have, Oklahoma would have been flirting with no bowl eligibility if they lose that game. Because right now you're sitting in wild to say we're talking them down, but 4-1 right now, 1-1 in league play. Get Texas at South Carolina at home the next week, at Ole Miss, Maine at Missouri, by Alabama at home, and at LSU. So they need 2 more. I think they get to 2. Chalk Maine up. They really need 1 more. I think they get it. If they had lost to Auburn, which they probably should have, that'd been tough. That'd been tough, folks. And on the way to Auburn. Let's go to Auburn. I'll be honest, they really weren't that bad for themselves. This is kind of how I expected how Auburn to be this year. Kind of 8-9 win ceiling, 5-6 win floor. Was it great? No, but Peyton Thorne wasn't terrible outside of that 1 pick. I mean, he's 21 for 32, 338, 3 touchdowns and interception. But that interception cost you the game. Honestly, counted for about 3 interceptions when you factor in the timing. Why are you throwing there? I mean, I know hindsight's 20/20, Monday morning quarterback, but you're up 21-16 with 4 minutes left, and it's 3rd and 4. And you're what, on their 40? And you're throwing. If you run the football and punt, I think Auburn. I'd be willing to bet Auburn probably wins that football game. The defense has been fine for Auburn all year, but when you do stuff like that, put them in bad situations, you couldn't have given. If I was Hugh Freeze going to that game, it's like, guys, I don't think they could. People want to talk about how we're not going to score on them. I don't know how they score on us either. If I'm Hugh Freeze talking to my team, we can't talk to the offense. We can't give them points when their offense is not on the field. Our defense is going to give us a shot. Why are you throwing there on 3rd and 4? Hand the football off. It's gettable. 3rd and 4 is very gettable on the ground. Hand the football off. Punt, play field position. I don't think Michael Hawkins is driving down late at Jordan-Hare Stadium to go beat you when he had to have a touchdown. They were down 5. I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? I feel like no one's really talked about that, but that's what I thought about from that standpoint. It wasn't great, folks. But again, I think the defense was fine. Gave you a shot to win the football game. Has it been perfect? No, but DJ Durkin and his group have given Auburn a chance every game. That's really all you can ask for with this offense. Where does Auburn go from here? Well, you look at the schedule, and they're at Georgia this week. That'll be a tough one. You get an angry Bulldog team. I do not lie. I think Georgia's favored by 24 right now. That'll be tough. Then you get a bye. Then you go at Missouri and at Kentucky to end the month of October. Next time Auburn's at home is against Vanderbilt at Jordan-Hare Stadium on November 2nd. What will we be saying about the Auburn Tigers come November next time they step foot in Jordan-Hare Stadium? I mean, they're 2-3 right now. A lot of people had them 5-0, at worst case 4-1 because you opened up with the first 5 at home. F to start the year for Auburn. There's no other way to explain it. It's going to be tough to get to a bowl game. You got to get one of these first three on the road. Path to bowl, you only have 2 wins. You got to get one of the 3 on the road. Let's just say they do for conversation purpose. That's 3. ULM 4. And you're going to have to win beat A&M at home, toss up, maybe. And then at Alabama, I don't think you get that win. I think Auburn's staring at 5-7 right now. They're either going to have to get 2 or 3 in this road trip, which I don't think they do. They're not beating Georgia. I have a hard time seeing them win at Missouri and at Kentucky. Maybe one. Kentucky plays down to level of competition, so maybe that one. They get Vanderbilt at home. Sorry, they could get that one potentially. Their best shot should be get one of these at Kentucky, at Missouri, get one against Vanderbilt and ULM, and then you got to get A&M. I don't think they get to bowl eligibility, boys. Ladies and gentlemen, that game was a must-win. They had to get one of the Arkansas-Oklahoma games. They didn't. I think it's going to be a 5-7 season. I think it's going to be a 5-7 season on the Plains. Let's go to the comments. The Kip 6 is going to be remembered for all time. Yeah, that's an all-time great play. Again, this was probably not going to be an all-time great Oklahoma team. I understand they have one loss, still a lot of season in front of them, but let's be honest, probably not this year with your injuries. But that's one you can at least tip your cap this season, like found a way to win, gutsy win. How did we get it done, guys? We got a road SEC win, bye week. Let's go give it a shot against Texas and Red River, man. And I think defensively, they could give Texas some trouble. I think they give Sark, Quinn Ewers, his first start back. He'd been not playing for 3 or 4 weeks. I like the Oklahoma defense. Just can they generate enough offense? UT Bags, driving, but I think like Cole, everyone else will stop saying anything about Tennessee secondary. Yeah, I think 2 things can be true at once here, UT Bags. We'll talk about Tennessee here in a minute, but I think Tennessee's defensive secondary is definitely improved with guys like Jermod McCoy, but how good is it? I think it's the best quarterback they faced all year heading into this week. Yeah, it's not Grayson McCall. He is not great when he's trying to stretch the field. It isn't Jackson Arnold or Michael Hawkins. I think it's Taylon Green, as wild as it to say. Really it right now. Yeah, we'll move to the next one here. A&M hangs on in Arlington. This game literally is the same game every year, folks. It's the same. It's the last time it was played in Arlington, to be fair. This is literally the same game every year, folks. The exact same game every. You could pull it out of a hat. The 11, 12 times they played since A&M has been in the SEC. You could pull it out. Same exact game every year, folks. It really is. But A&M gets the 21-17 win over Arkansas. A&M just hung around long enough to let Arkansas beat themselves like they usually do, not only in this game, but other games under Sam Pittman. A&M dominated the field position, backed them up a lot, ultimately paid off for them. Defense overwhelmed Arkansas. Taylon Green looked like deer in headlights at times. A&M just keeps winning the turnover battles, folks. In their 2 SEC games, they are +6. They had 3 turnovers against Florida, 3 against Arkansas. They have not turned the football over. That's how you win against teams that you're better than. You don't give them a chance to really win the football game. And Arkansas had a shot because they had more explosives. They collected more yards overall, ran the football okay. I don't think it was as bad as the stats said, but wasn't great. But still, Arkansas had a chance, but they beat themselves. Now, with A&M, I think when they start playing better teams, you're going to need a vertical passing game. 163 yards from Marcel Reed's not going to get it done. I'm telling you, if A&M wants to hit the ceiling of the season and win 9 games, which is what I think it could be with this defense, I think Connor Wigman's going to have to come back. If not, you're just going to have to make lemonade out of lemons, make the best of it. And who knows with his injury? I've heard talking to people up there, he's just been rehabbing. He ain't even really been practicing. But when they play better teams like this week against Missouri, which is the only top 25 matchup in college football this week, the 11 a.m. brunch one's going to get us started right. They have to have a vertical passing game to beat other explosive teams. And you know guys like Brady Cook, Luther Burden, Mookie Cooper, Theo Weiss, Eli Drinkwitz, and Kirby Moore are going to generate some explosive plays. A&M's good on defense, but Missouri's going to get their own too. To beat good teams, other top 25 teams, A&M's going to have to get better in the passing game. That's something I'd keep alive. From an Arkansas standpoint, what can happen will happen to this team in a negative way. Third to last drive that won the game for A&M. Arkansas, for whatever reason, their defensive line coach, Deke Adams, had his second unit, his 2 deep in on that drive, didn't put Landon Jackson and Eric Gregory in until they got to the goal line. What kind of coaching mistake is that? That gets you beat. People don't notice that unless you go back and watch the film, talk to some of Arkansas people. That was a kind of a palms-up defense reaction. Like, why are we doing that? Again, I haven't ever seen a team like Arkansas just find ways to lose games. I thought they could have beat Auburn worse 2 weeks ago. They just kept stumbling, turning the football over. Offensive line, I think Sam Pittman's one of the best offensive line coaches of all time. It's not been great. It's gotten worse every year he's been in Arkansas. But weirdly enough, am I crazy for I don't think they're going to beat Tennessee this week, but I think they bounce back and play well. Again, we have the preview myself and Chris Phillips dropped that one today, the Arkansas Tennessee preview. If Arkansas would have won, College Game Day would have been there last week or this week. I just think I kind of like Arkansas in this spot after this loss. Again, they would rather have had the win, but I kind of think they're sleeping into this one. If I was Josh Heupel, I'd rather have Arkansas come into this as a winner and have my team's attention. But Arkansas, where do you go from here? I mean, I think they get somebody. They're going to upset someone this year. I lean it's maybe that LSU game in a couple weeks because Arkansas gets on a bye. They're coming off a bye, and LSU's coming off that Ole Miss emotional game, and then they got to go on the road and play in Fayetteville. And LSU traditionally, whether it's been in Little Rock in the past or in Fayetteville, has not played well in Arkansas. I think they get one down the line. I just don't know where. I just keep giving them hope, but that's why I picked A&M this past week. I thought Arkansas would outplay them, but I just think Arkansas beats themselves, and A&M doesn't. Did not turn the football over. Arkansas doesn't win field position battles, has key penalties, and they have bad turnovers, folks. But A&M getting a typical 21-17 win over Arkansas in the Southwest Classic, the last one in Arlington before it heads to campus. Poor Jerry Jones just has to keep giving A&M the trophy compared to giving it to his alma mater. That would have to feel better, I would assume. But 11 times, good gracious, that's got to be sickening for Jerry, especially when you factor in his Cowboys too. But no, same song and dance, just different year. More games are lost than won. Arkansas continues to lose them, guys. Who would? Mike. That Notre Dame loss makes 9-3 though for the Aggies. Yeah, I agree. I don't see 10. I really don't see 9. If it's just Marcel Reed, they got to get the passing game going, man. If the competition heats up, that's not going to suffice and get them wins against good teams on the same level in the top 25 as them. Oklahoma could sure use Theo Weiss right now. Yeah. Unfortunately, he's at Missouri, but you're right. He did transfer from Oklahoma Ons. I agree with you. They could really use him right now. They could use me and you too, potentially, just from a body standpoint. Pittman is just a good dude. UT Bag says the quarterback could be an issue, but how well did any running quarterback do against our first team? I mean, I think they go as far. People say it's the issue, Taylon Green, but I think they go as far as he takes him. I mean, I don't think Taylon Green, he's very high and he's very low at times, has very deer and headlight looks. But again, I mean, I see people posing questions as they go to the backup. Malachi Singleton isn't going to be any better. They put him in again a little bit for a series against Auburn when Taylon Green had cramps and it wasn't good. I mean, I talked to people at Arkansas. Malachi Singleton's great in practice. It just doesn't translate to the game film. I remember recruiting Malachi when I was with Gus Malzahn at UCF. Came down, he was at North Gwinnett, came down to us in Arkansas, and he decided to follow the SEC logo. I don't blame him. But specifically to Taylon Green, I mean, this year, what is he? mean, he's a 54% passer, 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Not great, but you see some of that ability, and I promise you, folks, it's better than what they had behind him. I was texting their chief of staff today. They go as he goes. They have to continue to play him. If they make a move at the quarterback position, that would be dumb. Bobby Petrino and Sam Pittman are not going to do that, folks. Again, I'm with you. I'm with you, Bags. He is inaccurate, especially over the middle of the field. 5 touchdowns, 5, but he's the best they have. And he's the best quarterback Tennessee's faced, I'll be honest, or he's going to face. He's better than Grayson McCall in the passing game, has higher upside. He's better than Michael Hawkins or Jackson Arnold, as you saw as well. Yeah, Joe Milton, great practice, didn't translate. That's Malachi Singleton, the backup quarterback. It just, you saw a little bit. They tried to give him a chance, but it just didn't work. And then finally, let me move it up. Pull this one up for you. And then finally, Texas pulls away from Mississippi State, folks. Texas getting the 35-14 win. Arch Manning was more comfortable than he looked against ULM coming out on Saturday in his first SEC start. Thought the Texas offensive line, though, their worst game of their season so far. Too many penalties. Struggled in the run game in the first half. Mississippi State had more yards on the ground and through the air. Or no, Mississippi State had, looking at the box right now, Mississippi State had more yards on the ground, than through the air with 150 yards rushing in the game. Mississippi State was also able to get a consistent short gains, which helped them continually pick up third and manageable. Like it just overall, it wasn't a great performance from Texas. I thought Colin Simmons for Texas, the young cat on the edge, was good, especially in the second half. But it almost kind of felt like Texas just kind of opted really not to run it that often at the start of the game. They kept having negative rushing yards, penalties. It really wasn't a good. It was Texas's worst game. And at some point, again, folks, everyone's ugly game is reared their ugly head. It's tough to go play well for 12 straight weeks, folks. That's why I think Tennessee could be in a little bit of a battle this week. If I was Josh Heupel, I'd rather Arkansas be coming to this game off a big win. Again, just as much lack of continuity, transfer portal, how focused are these guys week to week against an Arkansas team? I know it's a road game. I don't know. I just feel like this may be the week Tennessee. Again, I don't think Tennessee's going to lose. I don't really see a real path to victory for Arkansas here. But I could see this game being closer in the second half than people were expecting. You saw it with Texas this week. I thought they would go hammer Mississippi State just on the ground, and it didn't happen. It was Texas's worst game. For Mississippi State and Jeff Lebby, give them a little credit. State tried to shorten the game and not get blown out in Austin with a true freshman and Michael Van Buren making his first career start. Run game was better than it's been all year. Conversely, Texas has an elite front seven, yet Mississippi State, they found success running the football, which I never would have bet. They finished with 150 yards rushing, which is pretty good against this Texas front. All things considering, not a bad opening road game contextually. Again, they're still the worst team in the SEC. But again, to big donors, they were a 38-point underdog. For you to not get beat by more than that 38 spread, that at least satisfies some of those big money people. Like, hey, just don't go get embarrassed this year, man. Let's go still try to steal one SEC game, maybe against A&M or Arkansas at home. It sure as hell is not going to be on the road. But it was respectable. It was respectable. You forced some turnovers. You were fighting. You looked like you had a strategy. I didn't think with a freshman they could roll out there and go sling it like they want to. That'd been dumb. You've been asking to get beat 50-0. I don't even care with Arch Manning starting. So I appreciate Jeff Lebby and them like having a strategy in here, like, hey, let's don't go get our brains beat in because we could. They tried to shorten the game. It's what they did. Tip of the cap. I'll give them. I did not expect that, but tip of the cap to Jeff Lebby and them. Joe Milton, not arguing that. How about we made those others look bad? No, I agree. I think that's the case too. But also, like NC State hadn't been world beaters either since they played Oklahoma or since they played Tennessee. And look at Oklahoma's quarterback situation. I'm just saying that Tennessee can only beat who's in front of them. Not taking anything away from Tennessee. It's just I think that secondary is improved. We just may not find out how improved till the Alabama game potentially. And that's not Tennessee's fault. It's just the schedule that's in front of them. I think it's two things can be true at once. Tennessee's secondary is improved, but I think we still don't know how improved, which I think that's a win for Tennessee. Good alumni win over those drooling leg humpers, Dave. Was a big win for Alabama for sure. Mike, the Vols look great. Texas did what was needed. Yeah, they did. Texas playing down to competition. Bag says, when has Heupel's guys played down? I think he wants to show he's the offensive guy, not the motorcycle man. Yeah, Tennessee hadn't had that game yet. Again, I think it wasn't great the second half against Oklahoma, but I think Tennessee put put the game in neutral. They just knew they couldn't. If they didn't turn the football over, they were not going to lose that game. So I think that was one of Josh Heupel's, like I said last week, one of his best coach games. So I'll give them credit there. Let's go around the rest of the league here just real quick. We got LSU getting the 42-10 win over South Alabama. Call me crazy here, folks. Call me crazy. Is this LSU defense better without Harold Perkins? Just saying. I went back and watched the first half of this defensively. They look like everybody knows their role a little bit. It almost felt like they had to fit Harold Perkins in. It's a point. I don't blame him. He's one of the best athletes on the field, one of the best overall players. He can generate plays, but it's almost like Blake Baker then just felt like we have to throw him on there. Where do we fit him in? He's just, again, you talk to NFL scouts like I do. He's kind of a tweener. He's not big enough or long enough to go play on the outside against big, long offensive tackles. He's not as instinctual inside the box to go be a stand-up backer inside either. It's an instinctual position. I think they look a little better and more comfortable in their roles. Again, South Alabama puts up points on folks, people. Major Applewhite and them are good offensively. They're 2-3, not a great team, but offensively they're fine. LSU held them to 10 points. I definitely thought South Alabama would get more points than that. LSU looked a little bit more comfortable, and everybody understood their assignments more so than they did when they had Harold Perkins. Again, they would love to have him. I would love to have him if I was Blake Baker, but not a blessing in disguise. I hate to say that about an injury. They just look a little bit more comfortable. Art S., appreciate you listening, man. Mississippi State controlled the clock in the first half. Texas ended with 198 yards rushing. They did. I was impressed with Mississippi State this week. I appreciate the chestnut checker strategy of not just going, hey, this is what we do. This is our system, man. We got a backup quarterback, Michael Van Buren, freshman starting on the road. We're just going to go do what we do. No, they had a game plan like, hey, if we go sling this around, go 3 and out, we're going to go get their brains beat in. Mike did not watch LSU. Yeah, I mean, they played South Alabama same time Alabama was playing Georgia. Most eyes nationally were not on that game. But I thought they looked a little bit more comfortable defensively against a solid group of 5 offensive team. And I think that's because they weren't just trying to fit Harold Perkins in somewhere and everyone understood their role. Maybe I'm looking too into that. They have a bye week. They'll get tested in 2 weeks when Ole Miss comes to town, and maybe my thought comes to fruition there. But that's just around the rest of the league. See what else we got in. We got to get into where I was wrong, where I was right, week 5, folks. I'll be honest, I haven't really been wrong specifically in straight-up games the last 2 weeks. I'm only going to have one wrong. It's what we brought up, State's game plan. I really thought Texas would go hammer Mississippi State. I did not expect Jeff Levy to do what I would do. Now, I would have went and tried to shorten the game with a backup quarterback. I'll give him credit. He's a smarter head coach than I gave him credit for. And I was not a big fan of the Jeff Levy hire initially. I thought they should go hire John Summerall, who's at Tulane now. But again, I gained it. Let's give a golf clap for Jeff Levy, folks. Let's give a little golf clap for Jeff and the boys there. They fought. They fought when everything was against. I mean, they got hammered by Toledo 2 weeks ago. A bad Florida team came in, won by double digits. Everything was going wrong in Mississippi State. They had to go hop on a flight to Texas. The only thing you could think they were maybe looking forward to heading into that game was the brisket. But no, they went, fought their tail off. I know Texas was playing with Arch Manning, but again, serviceable backup, one of the better backups in college football. But it was Mississippi State's game plan that I was real proud of. So tip of the cap to them. Golf clap. Let's give a little golf clap for Jeff Levy and the boys there. Good job. Where I was right, a couple things. Again, I'm not hyping myself up. I'm just being honest here. Last 2 weeks have been good. I've been calling it like I see it here, and I've been right. Betting picks, we'll review that in a minute. That's a conversation for another day. It's been a real loser. But where I was right this week, week 5, Kentucky's game plan to beat Ole Miss. Stay ahead of the sticks on first and second down, control the clock, get manageable third down situations, use Gavin Wimsatt as you like. They did that. Now, they got lucky on that fumble at the end. They must be living right, as Nick Saban would say. You must be living right during the week to get that on Saturday for you to go fumble right outside the end zone and it bounce right into your tight end's hand. You must be living right, Mark Stoops. But I was right on their game plan. To a T, they were going to win that game. The exact thing had happened for Kentucky. How it played out had to happen. Another thing, Georgia's secondary had major question marks. Alabama proved that in the first half. I mean, I did not think Alabama would go put up 41 points. I thought it'd be a high-scoring game. I thought Alabama would win 31-24. I didn't think they'd go get to 41. So I think Georgia's secondary, we'll talk about who is the best secondary, and it's more of an open discussion. I'd love to hear the comments when we get to it here, right, in this next segment, best secondary in the SEC. And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, folks, because we're only through 5 weeks. I'll bring up some statistics, average yards per attempt, overall passing numbers, but Overall, though, Georgia, this isn't a lockdown Georgia secondary, folks. And again, everybody's in nickel dime. You play with more now. Kids transfer to spatial game. It's harder to play in the secondary now. But I thought this Georgia secondary could be had. I mean, I really did. I did not think it was an overall great Georgia secondary. And I don't even know if that's Kirby Smart and them's issue. I just think everyone has secondary issues. But except I think when Oklahoma's healthy, with Peyton Bowen and Billy Bowen, I think it's up there. Woody Washington's up there with anybody else. But, I mean, I thought Joe Neal Aguero had a bad game for Georgia. Julian Humphrey got a little bit. Malachi Starks got a little bit. Dalen Everett got a little bit. It's not your traditional Georgia secondary. And I was right on that one. And then finally, last one, Arkansas again makes too many mistakes and penalties to trust them week to week. I against a solid team, I'm not going to be picking the Razorbacks, folks. That's nothing against them. I have buddies on that staff. I would love to pick for them. Chris Phillips from SEC, our SEC Unfiltered Fearless Leader. That's where the SEC Unfiltered tour is going to be this week. He's going to get access in the building. We love Arkansas, but it is what it is. Until they stop making turnovers, committing bad penalties, beating themselves. They had double the yardage A&M had going into the fourth quarter. And they lost the game because they beat themselves. They find ways to lose games. I can't remember a time Arkansas just got blown out with Sam Pittman. It's happened. I have to go look at schedules. But they're always in it. They just get themselves beat. Again, that's why I took A&M. I had people from Arkansas reaching out to me. Why'd you pick against Arkansas? Why'd you pick against this week? I don't trust you with turnovers and penalties against a solid team. And also, I thought Mike Elko would have a good game plan, making Taylor Green seem ghost. And he did. Let's go to the chat room. Joe K. Arch played good. Had a nice touchdown run, taken away in a TD pass drop. When Arch runs, reminds me of Vince. Our run D needs more work. Yeah, at some point, I mean, I like Vernon Broughton. I like Alfred Collins. I like Bill Norton. I like the other kid they brought in from Arizona. At some point, though, you were going to go miss Byron Murphy and Devondre Sweat. At some point you were. I don't know. You hope you shore up a little bit before you play Georgia here in a couple of weeks. But you're right, I think, Joe. I think you're right there, Joe. Save Dummerall for UK when Mark retires, please. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the next guy at Kentucky potentially. Maybe if Lane leaves, Ole Miss as well. Arch scored 3 times on one drive. Yeah, he did. He had a nice dime. That one ball was nice. I'm with you. I wouldn't as down on the start. He looked more comfortable actually in that one than the ULM one, but the ULM one gets more clout because he had the big run. Or that was UTSA, sorry. But I think this is the game he looked the most comfortable in. Stats wouldn't show that. Mike, Summer, all I love, John. Then UT Bags. Bags is back, baby. Gump secondary does a lot of not turning around for the ball. Several missed PI calls on the Gump secondary. Leg jumpers played on a lot of man. No, I'm with you. Alabama's secondary has holes too. I mean, they finally started playing in phase and turned around and played the football like a receiver, like it's taught on the last play. You saw Xavier Brown make that last reception. Started playing the ball like he was a receiver when he was parallel with the receiver's shoulder. That's how it's taught. When you're parallel with the receiver's shoulder, you turn around and play the football like the receiver. If he's in front of you, you play his eyes. Any DB's coach will tell you that. But you're right. I mean, I think you're right, Bags. Alabama's secondary is questionable too. Now, I think a little baptism by fire this past week against Georgia when it was bombed over Baghdad for 4 downs in the whole entire second half. I think that's going to make them better. But I think the real next time you see them tested is when they make a trip to Knoxville, and I do not like that matchup for Alabama. In Knoxville, in Neyland, Tennessee's going to make Alabama defend the whole field. I don't think it's a great matchup for Alabama. All right. Next one, guys. We talked about it. I want to hear some comments here. Let's pull up some stats real fast. Who has the best secondary in the SEC right now? Who would y'all say? Who is the best secondary in the SEC? Trying to find my stats. I mean, team passing efficiency defense, number 1 in the SEC is Texas at 4. Best passing team, Texas played through 5 weeks. Again, there's no right, wrong, or different answer. I just try to put the rankings, yards per pass, all kind of together, and who have you played quarterback-wise? Texas, I mean, Michigan, that's not saying a lot, folks. But Texas is in that conversation. Alabama's been tested now. They got taken advantage of. I don't know if I can say them. Tennessee definitely improved. How improved? I think Taylor Green's probably the best quarterback they will have faced after this week. I'm not a big fan of Grayson McCall as a passer. I think once Tennessee got up 2 scores, they got them out of their comfort zone. We saw, Oklahoma made a quarterback change in the middle of the Tennessee game, so it's not Jackson Arnold or Michael Hawkins. No offense to them. I think South Carolina's in this, folks. I think South Carolina, when you factor in who they've played Garrett Nussmeier, stretches the field as good as anyone in the SEC. Still turnover prone, though, as we see at times. But I still think maybe South Carolina's secondary has been the most impressive so far, folks. I mean, it really may be. I think their secondary is not the biggest burners, but you've got O'Donnell Fortune. You got at the right side, Judge Collier. The safeties are both good, DQ Smith and Nicky Manwari. They faced, like I said, Garrett Nussmeier. Old Dominion likes to sling it around a little bit. I think they're in that top two conversation-wise off who they've played. People may call me crazy, and they'll get tested this week against Ole Miss because obviously you got Trey Harris, Jordan Watkins, Juice Wells, who South Carolina fans are real familiar with, going back to Willie Bryce that you transferred from South Carolina, is at Ole Miss now. When you factor in who they've played, the success they had, South Carolina's got to be in that conversation. I think Texas has improved, and that was a weak spot for the Horns last year, but they've only played Michigan and Alex Orji and Warren and the guys. Bama, they're young, and they got 6 scholarship corners. That's thin already. 3 are true freshmen. They're going to improve for sure. I don't think they're there right now. Again, Georgia, they're definitely in that conversation, but this isn't your typical Georgia D, so maybe I'm holding them against their own standard a little bit here. Keep going through some other teams. Tennessee, I think Tennessee's definitely improved. How good? We probably won't really find out until 2 to 3 more weeks, till the 3rd Saturday of October when Alabama comes to Knoxville. Ole Miss, they're a little aggressive, very penalized group, but I do like them. I think it's improved. I think Pete Golden's group overall is an improved bunch. I do like Ole Miss's secondary. I'll take a little penalties, some penalties for being overly aggressive at times. I will. I actually like this. So, I think Jaden Kennedy does a really good job at nickel. He plays with Trey Amos. Would be starting at Alabama. He's Alabama's 3rd guy last year. Played well against Tennessee when Terry Arnold went out with a concussion last year in the second half. He played behind 2 NFL first and second rounders in Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terry Arnold. So give him a break there. Arnold's with Detroit now. Kool-Aid's with New Orleans now. Let's keep rolling through this to see who else we can maybe have in this conversation. That's really it. I'm going to go South Carolina when you factor in who they played. Call me crazy. I'd probably go South Carolina. Give me Georgia still, but Georgia always just wants to be in that perfect call. There's so much communication they put on their corners. That's why Alabama had success in that first quarter. Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann want to always call the perfect play against the perfect call. And when Alabama was motioning, making Georgia declare if they were in zone or man, like you saw in that wheel route, like I talked earlier, Jam Miller against C.J. Allen, and you're making Georgia having to call, communicate, adjust. That's a lot on that back end. You're not going to call a perfect play now, especially when Bama goes up tempo in their motioning like they were in that first half. I'd probably go South Carolina, Georgia. I'm going to say Tennessee at 3. Texas 4 and probably Bama 5 right now is how I'd go. And I think Tennessee's got that room for either improvement or maybe go down a little bit. That's the only one I don't really know. It's improved, which all Tennessee needs for a playoff run is it for just be pretty average. Because I think that defensive front's a top 3 unit. I was talking to my buddy Arkansas today. He doesn't see a path to victory for them. He didn't see them. He didn't see a path to victory for Arkansas beating them. I don't really either. I see a path to it being close. Tennessee goes and turns the football over, has some key penalties in a road, in just an SEC road game. I can see that. But overall, that's how I'd go. I'd probably go South Carolina just because I think they've faced one of the better gunslingers in Garrett Nussmeier. I like DQ Smith. I like Nicky Manwari. I go Donald Fortune. Second, I'm going to go Georgia still. I was hammering them, but I'm judging them on their own self. The best guy on their back end is Malachi Starks, and even he struggled a little bit. But Kalen DeBoer, Nick Sheridan were 2 of the best, the combination of best offensive play callers in college football. They're in that top 3 right now with Sark and Lane Kiffin, even though Lane Kiffin just caught his worst game of his career on Saturday. Then I'd probably go Tennessee. Again, we're trending up. Then I'm going to go probably Texas and Alabama. I like Jedi Barron at Texas. I actually think Bama with Damani Jackson, Xavier Brown. I thought Jalen Mbakwe, the kid from Clay Chalkville, played really well. For Pinson Valley, played really well the other night. Had a big pass breakup. He played quarterback a lot in high school, new to the position. They're going to be fine in that back end. You're fired up about Bama's youth. It's just not there right now. Let's go check out the comments telling me how big of an idiot I am. That's a good question. Bag says Carolina only had 258 against Kentucky. Yeah, Kentucky's in that conversation too, Mike. I think you're right. Thank you for saying that. I think Kentucky's in that conversation. They played well last week without their best corner, as you mentioned earlier, Maxwell Harrison. Kentucky's definitely in that conversation, Mike. I appreciate you listening to Kentucky for sure. I agree with you. I even thought they played well against South Carolina. Somebody mentioned it, and I saw it was up there. Yeah, Carolina only had 258. Outside of 2 or 3 busted plays, Kentucky played pretty well defensively against South Carolina. They kind of gave up late just because I think they figured once they got down 2 to 3 scores, I think they figured the offense at that time was not going to generate anything. But you're right, Kentucky's with JQ Hardaway in them. I think it's up there right now for sure. I think it's up there for sure. I agree with you, Mike. Texas, Joe K says Texas, Tennessee, Missouri allow less than 127. Missouri could be in that conversation as well. You're right. Not really tested. Thomas Castellanos at Boston College isn't a guy's really going to go slinging around and really scare you. Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia, and then the spread option, the New Mexico State offensive staff, that's not really their strength either. I mean, hell, this week, if it's Marcel Reed, they only threw for 160 against Arkansas last week, and Arkansas didn't have a great secondary. They weren't really tested then. So, I mean, we'll see there. Missouri's in that conversation. I think Missouri, Tennessee are the 2 secondaries I feel like I don't really know a lot about, but I think they're both – I wouldn't say Missouri's is definitely improved because, I mean, they lost Chris Abrams-Drain last year and Ennis Rakestraw, their 2 best corners. So I don't think it's necessarily improved. I think Tennessee's is for sure improved. It's just how improved. But again, I think Mike brought up 2 good points. Kentucky's definitely in that conversation as well. I was getting to them in the stats. I saw Kentucky for sure, especially after this week against Ole Miss. And I think Missouri's in that conversation as well. So I think the conversation for the best secondary has got to be South Carolina, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, Bama, Kentucky, and Missouri, and like if I forgot them, Texas as well. Those would be the ones I would say right now. Again, it's tough to rank because the schedules are not created equally right now. Get through the month of October, folks. I just wanted to bring it up. I really wasn't trying to say one team was the best secondary. It was just when I was thinking about writing the script today for the show, I was like, it's a good conversation to have. Best secondary in the SEC. Best secondary in the SEC. I may tweet it out after this episode, folks. I would love to hear everybody's response. Again, I don't really have that. I was just looking at the numbers and factoring in, man, what quarterbacks his teams played. So that's why I was like, South Carolina's probably been tested. When you factor in playing Garrett Nussmeier, LSU. They have weapons. Kyron Lacey's a freak on the outside. Old Dominion a little bit. They'll be tested this week against Jackson Arnold and them if they can protect. Let's keep going. Gump's going to be pissed at me. He doesn't. Pass rush makes secondary look good. You're right. It does. Tennessee has 10 pass rushers that would start anywhere. Yeah, I mean, Tennessee does roll 8-9 deep. I don't know 10, but 8-9, we're splitting hairs there. But I'm with you. Top 3 defensive front in the league. UT Bag Gums. Cole S., appreciate you listening, brother. What is your opinion on the A&M versus Missouri game this Saturday? Big game for Elko in year 1. Yeah, we'll get to preview that here in just a moment. We'll talk a little week 6 preview. Again, I appreciate you listening. Stay on. I'll answer that question. How did Bama do with Beck? How did Kentucky do with Beck? Yeah, definitely. Kentucky did better. That's what I'm saying. I'd probably give Kentucky a little bit of the nod over Bama. I think maybe by the end of the year it's Bama, but I don't think you're wrong, Mike. I think you can make an easy case Kentucky's more polished right now. Now, I think Beck played a much worse game, and again, context matters. Bama in the second half was going against Georgia, who had 4 downs in front of them because they had to play. They were down 30-7.5. They had more opportunities. Bama played, 53 snaps, I think, in that second half. They got winded. Now, some of that, they couldn't get off the field themselves on 4th down. But Georgia got in manageable situations. I think the longest 4th down they had was 4th and 6. They were usually anywhere from 4th and 2 from going back and watching the game, or 4th to 6. So, I mean, to be fair, context matters here. But I'm with you. Kentucky's in that conversation for sure, Mike. I don't disagree with you at all. A&M secondary's improved from last year, Cole says, with a lot of guys from the portal, Will Lee and Des Riggs. For sure. I'd agree with that as well. Best offense they played? Maybe Arkansas from stretching the field. I mean, I know Riley Leonard in the run game, but they didn't really test them through the air, Notre Dame. Again, it's the schedules. Nobody's really been tested. I mean, for sure, South Carolina's played the best team that stretches the field. So I'm going to give them the nod there, but I'm with Mike. Mike makes a good point. Kentucky's an interesting team to watch. So is Missouri as well, and A&M. Though in A&M as well. They'll be tested this week now. And a guy I like for A&M, the UAB transfer, BJ Mays, going back and watching the replay against Arkansas past week. He played really well in Tyrese Chappelle going out with an injury. It looks like it's going to be a long-term ear injury. So prayers up for him from that percentage point. But BJ Mays, he's a guy that may have to cover Luther Burden. So we'll find out this week with you there, Cole. Light out in Oklahoma for the South Carolina game. Appreciate you, Hans. UT Bags, Kentucky defense is pretty good. They're physical as always. Yeah, they are. It's a good defensive front. Different front Ole Miss is going to face this week. That was a physical, in-your-face unit this week. It's more of a finesse kind of with Kyle Kennard, Dylan Stewart. They're going to get after you. They're going to pin their ears back. Joe K, please hit like if you're watching. Yeah, appreciate you, Joe. Appreciate you promoting us, brother. Appreciate you listening. True that, I watched. Yeah, thank you, Mike. Now, let's get to the money-making weekend review real fast before we get to the Week 6 look ahead. Guys, again, it hadn't been good. And I talked to other people. I mean, Chris Phillips went over the other day. Everybody's going over. Brad Crawford, who's a phenomenal football mind who reports over for South Carolina, he told me he went over. Betting's as hard as it's ever been. No excuse, though. We're going to review it. Money-making weekend, 3-6 this week in Week 5, or 21-33 on the season. Not good, folks, but we're going to get above 500. We're going to be around 55% like we need to be by season's end. Just stick. But let's get to the wins. Let's get to the losses. We started off Friday well. Miami team total over 36.5. Won that. They scored 38. K-State, Oklahoma State under 55.5. They scored 62. K-State put up way more points than I thought they would. Both teams did, really. So that's a loss there. Notre Dame, Louisville under 45. It was not good for the unders for your boy Dave this week. They scored 55. I had the under 45. Alabama +2. They won straight up, won that one. Ohio State -24 versus Michigan State. They won 38-7. I covered that one. They won by 31. Auburn, Oklahoma under 46.5. I lost that one. They scored 48. That pick six by Kip Adams killed me. I know Ons the Gray and them are fired up about it, but that pick six, again, if they don't throw it, I don't know why Hugh Freeze is throwing on 3rd and 4 in that situation. But if they don't throw it, it doesn't go for a pick six. I think Auburn punts, and I'll be honest, I think Auburn wins the game, and your boy Dave wins his under pick there. Michigan, Minnesota. This is one where I was way off, and so was the Kent State one. Under 36. Final score was 27-24. They scored 51 points, 15 more points than the over-under total. And then you got Kent State team total under 14.5. They scored 33 at Eastern Michigan in a loss. And then Clemson -13.5 in the first half against Stanford. They were only up 10. They were only up 10. So we're 3-6 this week. Again, my 3 wins. Miami team total over 36.5. They got 38. Bama +2. They're giving Bama 2 points. I got that early in the week. Bama was a favorite at kickoff, but Bama won straight up. Then Ohio State just felt like it was going to be a good game for Ohio State at home in the shoe against Jonathan Smith. First year. He's a good coach, just not a good Michigan State team. They covered, winning 38-37. The spread was 24. But again, on the season, 21-33. We're going to get it right, folks. Just stick with me. More film, the merrier. Just keep betting with me, folks. It's been rough for everybody I've talked to this year so far. But last segment, let's go jump ahead into the quick Week 6 look ahead. Let me pull up the schedule here in the Southeastern Conference, folks. First one, it's the biggest, only top 25 matchup of the weekend. But game day is in Cal? They're in Berkeley for Miami Cal, the ACC showdown. 12 noon Eastern Standard Time Zone on ABC. Missouri at Oklahoma. Missouri ranked 9th. Missouri at Texas A&M. Sorry, Missouri ranked 9th. Texas A&M 25th. A&M currently favored by 2. Point total 48.5. I like Missouri in this one. Again, like I said, what has been keeping A&M in these games and them winning these games? I mean, they dominated Florida on the ground, beat Arkansas, and I think Arkansas probably outplayed them, but A&M's not turning the football over. Marcel Reed's not turning the football over. But I think against good teams that are make explosive plays like Missouri, they're going to have to get that passing game up. 160 yards through the air is not going to get it done this week. Me and Cole Thompson recorded that preview. That'll be out tomorrow, I believe. Go watch it. But right now, I lean Missouri early in the week. I just do. They're coming off a bye week. I think A&M's defense is really good. I think this may be the game, though, where they miss Tyreek Chappelle. But I'm telling you, the UAB transfer, go watch him for BJ Mays. It'll be interesting to see if he follows Luther Burden around all game. But I like Missouri in this one. Just the quarterback advantage. Again, most important position in the sport. Probably the most important position in all of sports. Give me Brady Cook, who still hasn't been great, but is a passer. I like him over Marcel Reed. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Zone. Auburn at Georgia on ABC. Georgia favored by 24, point total 53.5. This seems like a Georgia bounce back game. I don't see Auburn first road game getting it going here. I like Georgia big as we stand right now. We'll preview these games, as you know, on Thursday nights when Dave talks ball. 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Zone kick on ESPN. Ole Miss, number 12 Ole Miss, dropped out of the top 10. Head to Willie Williams-Brice Stadium. Will he be at South Carolina? Ole Miss favored by 9. Point total 52.5. So this tells me I think Vegas is worried how healthy is Lenore Sellers and Rocket Sanders. That's what it kind of tells me right now. And I think they kind of think Ole Miss is still better than South Carolina. I like Ole Miss to bounce back, guys. I don't like the matchup against South Carolina's their defensive front. I think Dylan Stewart, Kyle Kennard could have big days, especially with Ole Miss being banged up. But I do like Ole Miss getting bounced back because they kind of have to. It's just like when LSU came to town to Columbia a couple of weeks ago when College Game Day was there. LSU had to have that. Brian Kelly and them had to have that. They couldn't start off 1-2 and 0-1 in the league. Same with Ole Miss here. You lose this, college football playoffs could be sayonara, folks. Good night. It could be sleepy night time for Ole Miss in those playoff hopes if you go lose. 4:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Zone on SEC Network. Sorry. Now, number 1, Alabama after the win over Georgia heads to face an improved Vanderbilt team. Alabama favored by 23, 55.5 point total. Sometimes Bama's better on paper, folks. It'll be interesting to see how locked in Bama is. I saw today they have mouse traps all over the facility. They've been reporting to kind of keep their mind focused. And this is an improved Vanderbilt team. And if I'm Vanderbilt, I'm going to go take some chances early on that secondary and surprise them a little bit because they run this spread option, which I give Clark Lee the golf clap like I did Jeff Levy. Vanderbilt can't go run the same spread system like Purdue does, for example. Ryan Walters, Graham Harrell got fired. They run a spread that everybody else in the Big Ten runs. At Vanderbilt, you got to be different. When everybody else is zigging, you got to zag. Give Clark Lee credit for taking over the defensive play calling, hiring Tim Beck over from New Mexico State, bringing over Diego Pavia. Run it. The spread option is really what it is. It's a spread option. But if I'm them, you got to go test Bama early. See how awake they are if they want to be there after the big win against Georgia. Bama could sleepwalk in this one, but the Tide's favored by 23. Then the big one. This is where Chris Bauer, Kirk Herbstreit, the big ESPN game is going to be. 7:30 p.m. Eastern on ABC. Number 4, Tennessee at Arkansas. Vols favored by 13.5. Total 59.5. I think Tennessee wins this game, but again, we haven't seen an ugly game from Tennessee. We've seen it from everyone else. I don't think Tennessee just plays a clean season, game 1 through 12. It happens to everybody. Too much unknown, continuity, not development within each program. Is this the game? Josh Heupel usually has a game on the road that they don't show up. Again, I don't see a path to victory for Arkansas here. I really don't, unless Tennessee turns it over 3+ times. But I could see this game being close in the second half. I wouldn't touch it with the 13.5 point line there. Maybe buy a point, get up to 14.5 and take Arkansas. I know Gumps isn't going to like that, but I think Tennessee's a really good football team. That doesn't mean if they go play bad in Fayetteville this week, they aren't. It's just welcome to college football in the modern era, guys. It's week to week. I think this could be that. If I was Josh Heupel, I'd have wanted Arkansas to win that game against A&M last week because College Game Day would have been their big distraction. They would have been riding that high. Instead, Arkansas is kind of going to be sleepwalking through this week. Tennessee coming off a bye week. Josh Heupel's biggest challenge will be getting this team focused to go play a Saturday night matchup in Razorback Stadium. Then finally, the in-state matchup, only out-of-conference matchup of the week, 7:45 on the SEC Network. UCF, Gus Malzahn and the boys rolling in after a tough loss to Deion Sanders' prime in Colorado last week at the Bounce House in Orlando. Play a Billy Napier-led Florida team, 2-2, coming off a bye week after a win against Mississippi State 2 weeks ago. This game is at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, the Swamp. UCF favored by 2.5, point total 61.5. This is the game that could get Billy fired. If you lose back-to-back games to UCF, going back to the Gasparilla Bowl in 2021, I was on that UCF staff. That was actually my last game at UCF, folks. Billy was actually there evaluating his own team there. Now it's funny. This could be a game that breaks him. We're previewing this game tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to say. I really don't have a feel for this game. Someone asked me how I feel about Missouri, Texas A&M. I feel pretty good about Missouri winning that game. This game, I don't know. How does UCF bounce back after a tough Big 12 loss to Colorado where they got beat pretty bad? I mean, did you see Rick Ross for Colorado was doing like a live pregame concert in Colorado's locker room? They just operate different over there. Not my cup of tea, but to each his own. How does UCF bounce back? You know Gus Malzahn and them are going to prepare their tail off. He may be interested a little bit in that Arkansas job if it were to come open or if Sam Pittman retires on his own. This is a game that would get on that Arkansas boosters radar. Again, Gus is always going to have people fighting for him in Arkansas for that job. This would be one, go beat an SEC team, go be 2-0 against Florida. Does UCF and KJ Jefferson come out hungry? That'll be interesting. They have a great run game in RJ Harvey. Does Kobe Hudson, the receiver, transfer from Auburn, keep doing his thing? For Florida, how hungry are you going to be? You have to go win this game. What do they look like off a bye week in a massive game for Billy Napier? But that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. We got 5 conference games. What do we got? Yeah, 5 conference games, 1 out-of-conference matchup, but a big at a conference matchup. But that's the look ahead in week 6. Let's go to the comments before we get out of here, folks. Who we got? Cole S, baby. Luther Burden worries me. A&M's Nichols have been suspect with Chappelle out for the year. You're right. I think the Chappelle injury didn't hurt him against Florida because Florida can't really stretch the field. But long-term, it's going to hurt him. BJ Mays has got to step up, the UAB tracer. I like what I saw last week. Maybe he continues that. I will be interested. Does he follow Luther Burden like I mentioned earlier? UT Bags. SECU's become my favorite channel. Dave and Cole, though both Alabama grads, are good dudes. Appreciate you listening, Bags. Appreciate you listening, brother. Mike, love Mizzou here. Yeah, I kind of do as well right now. Cole S, how is the 11 a.m. game only ranked matchup of the weekend? It's still going to be a good environment. Yeah, Kyle Field's going to be rocking. Joe K, the Longhorn says, at UT Bags, I watch SECU more than I should. Again, guys, well, I'm not just speaking for myself and the Dave Talks Ball Show. I appreciate you from the SEC Unfiltered channel just watching all our stuff. We got about 400 people listening in right now live. Appreciate it, guys. And if you hadn't already, go like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You can get all our shows on the podcast version wherever you get all your podcasts, guys. We got college football content bleeding out the eyeballs. We also do college basketball here, which is starting up in less than a month, and we obviously do college baseball as well. So we appreciate you guys listening. Mike, Mizzou D is not shabby. No, it is not. You're right. Cole S, Auburn's going to get dog walk. Yeah, bad spot to be trying to go get right on the road. You're going to Sanford Stadium where it seems like Georgia figured some stuff out in the second half. That'll be interesting. Joe K, Auburn and Arkansas keep getting in their own way. Yeah, they just find ways to lose games, man. They do. Auburn, that pick 6, don't know why you're throwing there. Then Arkansas, folks, have been doing that for a couple of years, even going back to last year. Mike, that Rebel O-line will have their hands full. They will. Different challenge because Kentucky's more powerful, had the best defensive tackle with Deion Walker in the league, I think. They're more, hey, they're going to come pop you and jolt that head back and be able to play a little bit more physical with that defensive front, especially with De'Aaron Jackson and Damon Dumas-Johnson at the second level at the backer spot too, where South Carolina's just trying to get to the quarterback and play with pin their ears back as well. I think Lane Kiffin, Charlie Weiss Jr., and them are going to have something up their sleeves. I like Ole Miss to bounce back this week, folks. I'll give you my real prediction on Thursday's show. Mike, Pavia has been terrific, very fun. Yeah, he has for Vanderbilt. UT Bags, Heupel T-Bags, Petrinos falls by 50. Joe K, UCF favorite over Florida. Who'd have thought that? Yeah, it's just kind of the state of where Florida is. And thank you for the stream, Dave. Yeah, appreciate y'all listening, Mike. Gators can't lose to K, fights bro. Well, guys, that is going to be it. We have gone 71 minutes, 72 minutes now. We have covered a ton. I appreciate you guys listening. We reviewed all the Week 5 action, including the showdown in Tuscaloosa. It's going to be hard to beat as a college football game of the year. There's going to be bigger games because we're going to get deeper in the year. They're going to have more. They're going to have more implications. Obviously, we get into the 12-team playoff. But that game, just the momentum swing, Tele2 has going to be tough to beat. Kentucky with the upset, I think, of the year so far. I know we got Northern Illinois over Notre Dame, but when you factor in what Ole Miss is going to do, no one thought Ole Miss. This was a worst-case scenario start for Ole Miss, starting off 0-1. They got to win this week. We talked Kentucky going into Oxford and winning. We talked to all the other SEC matchups, Arkansas losing the game against A&M. We talked to Auburn, the critical pick 6 against Oklahoma. Oklahoma had to have its season saver. Mississippi State had a good game plan against Texas, but Texas is just so much better than them. Who is the best secondary in the SEC? Is it Texas? Is it Tennessee, South Carolina, Mizzou, Kentucky, Alabama, Georgia? You make a case for a lot of teams. I don't think we know that exact answer right now because we don't have a lot of the common opponents. Most teams have only played one real opponent. Some of those don't even have the offenses to stretch the field vertically. We don't know. I don't have the answer to that. Just thought it was going to be fun to brought up. We reviewed Money Making Weekend. Wasn't great. 3-6 this week. Overall for the season, again, guys, it's going to have to improve. But right now we're sitting. Let me go back before we get you out of here. Again, we're going to be upfront and honest. 21-33 on the season. And then we just previewed a little bit of the Week 6 action. It's a good week. When everybody thinks it's a slow week, that's when crazy stuff happens. Again, the only top 25 matchup of the week in Week 6 in college football resides in the SEC. It's the noon Eastern kickoff. Missouri and Eli Drinkowitz heading to Kyle Field, which should be a raucous environment. But, guys, again, I appreciate you joining us. Go like, subscribe, hit that notification bell on all things SEC Unfiltered content. I will be back Thursday night, and you know what Thursday night does to me. It's prediction night, folks. It gives me the warm and fuzzies. But appreciate you joining us. You have a phenomenal rest of your week, guys.